The message arrived on a Tuesday morning and it changed everything. Dr. Han Bora sat in her small office at the University of New Seoul, reviewing ancient Earth languages, when her screen flashed red. Emergency alert. Government priority. She touched the screen and watched the translated message appear, word by word. The Galactic Coalition wanted to meet with humanity. After 30 years of silence, after ignoring every message Earth sent into space, they finally responded. But there was a condition. Humanity could send one person, just one, and that person had to come completely unarmed. No weapons, no armor, no defensive technology of any kind. Bora stared at the message. She had spent her entire adult life studying alien cultures from the few broadcasts humanity had intercepted. She knew 17 different alien languages. She understood their customs, their histories, their ways of thinking, but she had never imagined she would meet them in person. 3 days later, she stood in the United Earth Council building in Geneva. Secretary General Kang Do-yoon had called her there personally. The meeting room was full of important people, military generals in pressed uniforms, politicians with worried faces, scientists with tablets full of data. They all turned to look at her when she entered. Kang Do-yoon was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been a medic in the colonial wars before becoming a diplomat. People said she could read a room better than anyone alive. She looked at Bora for a long moment, then nodded. Dr. Han, Kang Do-yoon said, we need someone who can think, not fight. Someone who listens before speaking. Someone who understands that words can be more powerful than weapons. I think that person is you. A general stood up, his face red. This is insane. We should send a trained diplomat. Someone with experience in negotiation, not a university professor who studies dead languages. Kang Do-yoon did not look at the general. She kept her eyes on Bora. The aliens don't want a diplomat. They want to see what humanity really is. If we send someone polished and perfect, they will see through it. Dr. Han studies cultures. She understands difference. She respects it. That is what we need. Bora felt her heart pounding. Why do they want us unarmed? An intelligence officer spoke up. It is a test. They think we are violent. They know our history. The wars, the conflicts. They want to see if we can be peaceful. If we refuse to come unarmed, we prove we are dangerous. If we come unarmed and cause trouble, they have an excuse to reject us forever. And if I succeed? Bora asked. Then humanity has a chance, Kang Do-yoon said simply. A chance to join the galaxy. A chance to be more than alone. Bora thought about her family. Her parents had died in a mining accident 15 years ago. A colonial company had cut safety protocols to save money. 37 people died when the tunnel collapsed. No one was ever punished. That tragedy had taught Bora something important. Sometimes the powerful hurt the weak because they can. Sometimes the only defense is to be smart, to be patient, to find another way. I will go, she said. The room erupted in argument. Some people supported the decision. Others called it suicide. But Kang Do-yoon raised her hand and everyone fell silent. It is decided. Captain Yoon Min-ho will pilot the diplomatic ship. Dr. Han will be our ambassador. We have 2 weeks to prepare. Those 2 weeks passed like a dream. Bora spent every waking hour studying the new information Earth had about the Galactic Coalition. There were 17 member species. The most powerful were called the Velens. They were beings made of living crystal who communicated with patterns of light. They considered themselves the most advanced philosophers in the galaxy. The Velens had evolved on a world with no predators. No wars, no competition for resources. Their planet was paradise. They developed intelligence not to survive, but to understand beauty and truth. They looked at humanity and saw monsters, creatures who killed their own kind, who destroyed their own planet. Who knew only violence? Bora understood their perspective. From outside, humanity did look brutal, but she also understood something the Velens might not. Survival teaches lessons that paradise never can. Pain creates wisdom that comfort never will. She met Captain Yoon Min-ho 3 days before departure. He was shorter than she expected, with careful eyes and a quiet voice. He had flown combat missions in the Belt Wars. Now he commanded the diplomatic vessel Meridian. I do not like this mission, he told her bluntly, sending you in without protection. Without backup, it feels wrong. It is wrong, Bora agreed. But it is also necessary. Sometimes you have to take risks. Yoon studied her face. You remind me of the medics I worked with. They went into danger without weapons. Just supplies and hope. Some of them saved more lives than any soldier. I am not brave like them, Bora said. Bravery is not about feeling no fear, Yoon replied. It is about going forward despite the fear. You will do fine. On the day of departure, Bora stood in the departure bay wearing simple clothes. Gray pants, white shirt, comfortable shoes. She carried nothing except a translation device the size of her palm. Kang Doyen came to see her off. Remember, the Secretary General said, you do not need to make them like us. You just need to make them understand us. Show them we are different, not deficient. Bora nodded. She walked up the ramp into the Meridian. The ship was small but elegant, built for speed and diplomacy, not war. Yoon was already in the pilot seat, running through pre-flight checks. Ready? He asked. No, Bora said honestly. But let us go anyway. The Meridian lifted off smoothly. Earth fell away below them, blue and white and beautiful. Bora watched her home shrink to a marble, then to a star, then to nothing. They jumped to faster-than-light travel, and space twisted around them in colors that hurt to see. The journey would take 4 days. Bora spent every moment studying. She memorized Velen light patterns. She learned the clicking language of the Corthians. She read about Jarvik engineering traditions and Thessian trade customs. Each species had evolved differently. Each had different values. Each would judge humanity through their own lens. On the 3rd day, Yoon called her to the cockpit. I have been thinking, he said, about why they want you unarmed. I think it is not just about testing us. I think it is about making you vulnerable. Easy to dismiss, easy to ignore. Probably, Bora agreed. They expect me to fail. That way they can say humanity had a chance and wasted it. So what will you do? Yoon asked. Bora smiled. It was not a happy smile. I will listen. I will learn. I will be patient. And when they least expect it, I will show them what humanity really is, which is, Yoon prompted. Survivors, Bora said. We survive because we adapt, we learn. We find solutions that others cannot see. That is our strength. Not weapons. Not violence. Our ability to survive anything. On the 4th day, they dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Kelrath Prime. The planet was a gas giant, massive and beautiful, with rings of ice that caught the light of 3 suns. Orbiting the planet was the summit station. It looked like a flower made of metal and glass with 17 petals spreading out from a central hub. Bora stared at it. This was where the galaxy's leaders met, where decisions affecting trillions of lives were made, where humanity would be judged. Meridian, you are cleared for docking, a voice said in perfect English. The human representative will proceed alone to the central chamber. All weapons and defensive systems must remain on your vessel. Yoon looked at Bora. Last chance to turn back. Bora stood up and straightened her shirt. No, we came this far. Time to see it through. The ship docked with a gentle thump. The airlock opened. Beyond it was a corridor of strange beauty, with walls that seemed to shift between solid and liquid. Bora took a deep breath. Then she stepped forward, leaving behind the last piece of human territory. She was alone now, unarmed, vulnerable, exactly as they wanted. But she was not afraid. She had spent her life preparing for this moment. Every language learned, every culture studied, every lesson from humanity's painful history. All of it had led her here. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, and there, waiting for her, were the representatives of 17 alien species. They turned to look at her with eyes and sensors and organs she could not name. Some looked curious. Some looked amused. Most looked disappointed. They had expected something more. Something impressive. Instead, they got a small human woman in simple clothes, carrying nothing, claiming nothing, asking for nothing except a chance to be heard. Han Bora walked forward into the center of the chamber. Her footsteps echoed in the silence, and the galaxy's judgment began. The central chamber was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high that Bora could not see where it ended. The walls were made of something that looked like water frozen in the moment, before it becomes ice. Light moved through them in slow waves of color. The 17 representatives sat in a circle around the center of the room. Each had a platform designed for their specific biology. The Velens stood on pillars of white stone that glowed from within. The Corthians rested on metal frames that supported their insect-like bodies. The Jarviks lounged on wide cushions that accommodated their 6 limbs. Bora walked to the empty space in the center. There was no chair, no platform, nothing. She was meant to stand. to be on display. She understood the message. She was not equal to them. She was a curiosity, a specimen to be examined, a voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere. The translation device in her palm grew warm as it worked. Human, state your purpose. Bora looked up at the Velen who had spoken. High luminary Krethis. He was tall, taller than any human, made of crystal that shifted between blue and purple. Patterns of light danced across his surface. The translation device told her the patterns meant contempt. I am Dr. Han Bora, she said clearly. I represent humanity. We come to learn, to understand, to offer friendship, laughter, not from mouths but from the translation system. Several species found her words amusing. Krathus's light patterns flashed in a way that made Bora's device vibrate with the force of his disdain. Friendship, Krathus said, from a species that has killed more of its own kind than any plague or natural disaster. From creatures who poisoned their own world in pursuit of comfort. From savages who only recently stopped launching nuclear weapons at each other. You speak of friendship as if you understand the concept. Bora felt anger rise in her chest. She pushed it down. Getting angry would prove his point. Instead, she nodded slowly. You are correct. Humanity has done terrible things. We do not deny our history. We have fought wars. We have destroyed. We have hurt each other in our world. But we have also learned. We have changed. We are still changing. A new voice spoke. This one came from a Jarvik named Tal Rin. He was smaller than the others, with soft brown fur and 6 limbs that ended in careful fingers. Learning implies improvement. What have you improved, human? It was not a hostile question. Talrin seemed genuinely curious. Bora turned to face him. We have learned to cooperate. 300 years ago, Earth was divided into nearly 200 separate nations. We fought constantly. Now we are united. We have learned to share resources. We have learned that survival requires working together. Krethus interrupted. You united only when faced with extinction. When your planet began to die from your own pollution. That is not growth. That is desperation. Yes, Bora agreed. It was desperation. But desperation teaches powerful lessons. We learned that we could change or die. We chose to change. Is that not the definition of intelligence? The ability to adapt? Before Krethus could respond, a Korthian general named Vex clicked forward. His body was like an ant's, but larger than a horse, covered in black armor that gleamed in the strange light. Adaptation born from violence is not the same as peaceful evolution. The coalition species developed intelligence through cooperation and mutual benefit. You developed it to kill each other more effectively. Bora looked at Vex. She had read about the Korthians. They were perfect soldiers. Their society was built on order and duty, but they had never faced a real war. Their battles were simulations, training exercises. They had no experience with actual death. General Vex, she said carefully. May I ask about your world? Vex's antennae twitched. What about it? Your species evolved with a hive structure. Perfect cooperation. No individual conflict. Your world had abundant food and few predators. You developed intelligence to organize, not to compete. Is this correct? Yes, Vex said. We are fortunate in our evolution. Fortunate, Bora repeated. That is one word for it. But consider this. You never had to learn to survive scarcity. You never had to compete for resources. You never had to develop strategies for dealing with threats you could not defeat through strength alone. Your evolution gave you many gifts, but it also left gaps in your experience. The chamber fell silent. Bora had crossed a line. She was not supposed to challenge them. She was supposed to beg for acceptance. But she continued. I am not saying humans are better. I am saying we are different. Our difficult past taught us things your peaceful past could not. Just as your peaceful past taught you things we are still learning. Perhaps that is why we should work together. Krethus's light patterns flashed angry red. You dare suggest that your violence gives you wisdom we lack? You compare the suffering you inflicted on yourselves to our civilized development? I suggest that all experiences teach lessons, Bora replied. And that dismissing an entire species because they learned different lessons is short-sighted. The other representatives began speaking among themselves. Some seemed intrigued. Others seemed offended. Talrin watched Bora with what might have been respect. But Krethus was furious. You want to prove human worth? Krethus said. Very well. We have a test, a simulation we use to evaluate potential coalition members. It measures decision-making ability under pressure. If you succeed, we will consider your application seriously. If you fail, Earth will be designated a quarantine world. No contact. No communication. Forever isolated. Do you accept? Bora felt her stomach tighten. This was a trap. Krethus wanted her to fail. He had probably designed the test specifically to be impossible for humans. But what choice did she have? If she refused, humanity would be dismissed immediately. I accept, she said. Krethus's light patterns pulsed with satisfaction. Excellent. The simulation will begin in 1 hour. You may use that time to prepare, though I suspect no amount of preparation will help you. The representatives dispersed. Bora was left standing alone in the center of the chamber. A small door opened in the wall and Talrin emerged. He approached her carefully. That was either very brave or very foolish, he said quietly. Probably foolish, Bora admitted. Tell me about this simulation. What am I facing? Talrin's 6 limbs shifted nervously. It is called the Trial of Essence. You will be placed in a scenario where you must protect civilians from an attacking force. The simulation is designed for species with natural defenses or advanced technology. Most candidates fail, but they fail gracefully. They show good judgment even in defeat. That is what the test measures. How you handle impossible situations. And what happens if I find a way to win? Bora asked. Talrin's eyes widened. Win? The simulation has no winning condition. It is not designed to be won. It is designed to be survived with dignity. Bora smiled. Then I will have to surprise them. 1 hour later, Bora stood in a different chamber. This one was smaller, with walls that shimmered like oil on water. In the center was a chair. She sat down and the world disappeared. She was standing on a planet's surface. The sky was purple. 2 moons hung overhead. Around her was a settlement. Simple buildings, fields of strange crops, and people, 50,000 of them according to the data that appeared in her vision. Civilians, families, children. A warning flashed. Incoming vessels. Hostile intent. She had 15 minutes before they arrived. She had no weapons, no defenses, just her mind and whatever resources the settlement possessed. Bora took a deep breath. She accessed the settlement's systems. Limited communications. Basic manufacturing. Agricultural technology. Nothing military. The attacking force was 20 ships, each heavily armed. They would destroy the settlement in minutes. She could try to evacuate. But there were not enough ships. She could try to negotiate. But would they listen? She could try to hide. But where? Then she had an idea. A crazy idea. The kind of idea that would only occur to someone who had studied humanity's messy, complicated history. Someone who knew that wars were not always won by the strongest. She opened a communication channel to the approaching fleet, and she did something none of the coalition species would ever consider. She surrendered, but not completely. Not unconditionally, she surrendered with terms. Attacking vessels, she broadcast. This is the colony administrator. We acknowledge your superior force. We cannot defend against you. We do not wish to fight. But before you destroy us, I ask that you hear what we offer. There was a long silence. Then a response came. You offer nothing we cannot take. Actually, Bora said, we offer something you cannot take. Knowledge. This colony specializes in advanced agriculture. We have developed crop strains that can grow in extreme conditions. Worlds you cannot currently inhabit could become fertile with our technology. If you destroy us, you destroy that knowledge. If you spare us, we will share it freely. Another silence. Longer this time. Bora held her breath. The simulation had given her information about the attackers. They were resource raiders. They attacked because they needed what others had. But what if there was a better way? You would give us this technology? The response finally came. Yes, Bora said. In exchange for peace. In exchange for trade agreements. You need resources. We have knowledge. Both sides benefit. Both sides survive. Is that not better than destruction? The simulation paused. The world froze. Then everything went black. Bora found herself back in the chamber, sitting in the chair. The representatives were staring at her. Many 2 days passed. Bora spent them in her assigned quarters, a small room with a window overlooking the gas giant below. She had no access to communication. No way to contact Yun or Earth. She was completely isolated, and she knew that was intentional. They wanted her to feel alone, to doubt herself, to break. But Bora had learned patience through loss. After her parents died, she had spent months waiting for justice that never came. She had learned that sometimes the only power you have is the power to endure. So she waited, she read, she thought about everything she had observed. On the third morning, the door to her quarters opened. Talrin stood outside, his 6 limbs shifting nervously. He looked around as if checking for observers, then stepped inside quickly. "I should not be here," he whispered. "But I wanted to warn you. They are going to reject you." Bora felt something heavy settle in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. "Tell me what happened." Talrin moved closer. "Krethus has convinced enough representatives that your simulation success was luck. He argues that humans cannot be trusted because you think in ways they cannot predict. He says that makes you dangerous. The vote will happen tomorrow. You will lose. And you?" Bora asked. "How will you vote?" Talrin's eyes reflected sadness. "I will vote for you, but my people have little influence. The Velans control the coalition. What Krethus wants, Krethus gets. I am sorry. I truly am." Before Bora could respond, an alarm blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed. Talrin spun toward the door, his fur standing on end. "What is that?" Bora asked. "Emergency alert?" "Something has happened." Talrin rushed out and Bora followed him into the corridor. The station was chaos. Representatives hurried toward the central chamber. Crew members ran past carrying equipment. The walls displayed scrolling text in multiple languages. Bora's translation device worked overtime to process it all. Then she saw the message that made her blood freeze. "Research Station Kethros 7 under attack. 60 researchers trapped. Defenses failing. Request immediate assistance." Bora ran after Talrin into the central chamber. All 17 representatives were already there, gathering around a holographic display. The display showed a planet's surface and a research station built into ancient ruins. Around the station, mechanical entities moved with lethal precision, firing energy weapons at the facility's shields. General Vex stood at the center, his antennae quivering as he analyzed data. The researchers activated something in the ruins. An ancient defense system. It has classified them as intruders and is attempting to eliminate them. The station's shields will fail in approximately 4 hours. Krethus's light patterns flashed urgently. "Send a military response immediately. Destroy the defense system." Vex shook his head. "The defense system is too powerful. My analysis shows a 97% probability that an assault would fail and result in the destruction of the station. The researchers would die in the crossfire." "Then evacuate them," another representative suggested. "Their escape pods were destroyed in the initial attack," Vex reported. "They are trapped." The chamber fell into grim silence. Bora watched the hologram, studying the pattern of the defense system's movements. The machines were not random. They moved in precise patterns, responding to specific triggers. They were protecting something. She stepped forward. "May I see the full data?" Everyone turned to stare at her. Krethus's light patterns flashed with annoyance. "This is a coalition matter. You have no authority here." 60 people are about to die," Bora said quietly. "I am just asking to look at the data." "What harm could it do?" Talrin spoke up. "Let her look. We have nothing to lose." Vex hesitated, then gestured. The hologram expanded to show detailed information about the attack patterns, the defense system's responses, and the researchers' attempts to communicate. Bora studied it all, her mind racing. The pattern was clear. The defense system attacked when the researchers tried to force their way deeper into the ruins. It did not pursue when they retreated. It was defensive, not aggressive. It was protecting something. "This system is not trying to kill them," Bora said. "It is trying to keep them away from something. Look at the attack pattern. It only escalates when they approach certain areas. When they pull back, it pulls back too." Vex clicked dismissively. "That changes nothing. The system will kill them regardless of intent. Unless someone communicates with it," Bora said. "Unless someone explains that we mean no harm. That we respect what it is protecting." Krethus laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Communicate with a machine that is millions of years old? That is absurd, is it?" Bora asked. "If this civilization was advanced enough to build a defense system that still works after millions of years, they were advanced enough to build it with intelligence. With language processing, with the ability to recognize peaceful intent." A smaller representative, one Bora had not heard speak before, moved forward. It was a Thessian, a species that looked like floating crystals. The human makes a valid point. The ruins are known to be from the architects, a civilization that valued cultural preservation above all else. Their technology was sophisticated beyond our current understanding. Even if you are correct, Vex said, how would you communicate? We have tried standard protocols. They have all failed. Bora took a deep breath. Send me. The chamber erupted. Representatives spoke over each other. Krathus's light patterns flashed so intensely they hurt to look at. Absolutely not, Krathus declared. You are not trained. You are not equipped. You would die within minutes. Probably, Bora agreed. But I am already here. I am already unarmed. The defense system sees weapons as threats. It sees force as aggression. But maybe it will see me differently. Maybe it will see that I carry nothing, that I threaten nothing. Maybe it will listen. Talrin moved beside her. She is right. We have 3 hours. Every military option leads to death. What do we lose by trying her approach? We lose nothing, a voice said. It was the Thessian. But the human risks everything. Why would you do this, Dr. Hun? These are not your people. This is not your problem. Bora thought about her parents, about the 37 people who died in that mine, about how no one had risked anything to save them, about how she had wished every day since that someone had tried. Because 60 people are going to die if I do nothing, she said simply, and I cannot live with that if there is even a small chance I can help. Silence fell. Even Krathus seemed to have no response to that. Finally, Vex spoke. If we allow this, you understand that we cannot guarantee your safety. If you fail, we will launch the military strike. The station will be destroyed. I understand, Bora said. Krathus's light patterns shifted to something Bora could not read. Very well. You have 3 hours. Captain Yoon Minho will transport you to the station. If you succeed, we will discuss humanity's application. If you fail, the Coalition will mourn your sacrifice. But Earth will still be quarantined. It was not fair. It was not kind. But it was a chance. Bora nodded and turned to leave. As she walked toward the exit, Talrin touched her arm gently with one of his 6 limbs. You are braver than any warrior I have known, he said quietly. I am terrified, Bora admitted. That is what makes it bravery, Talrin replied. 30 minutes later, Bora was aboard the Meridian again. Yoon looked at her with an expression that mixed pride and fear. You know this is insane, he said. Yes, Bora said, but sometimes insane is all you have left. The Meridian detached from the station and accelerated toward the Kethros system. As they jumped to faster than light speed, Bora stared out at the stars and wondered if she would ever see them again. She had just volunteered to walk unarmed into an active war zone and negotiate with a machine that had been killing for millions of years. But she had also volunteered because it was the right thing to do. Because 60 people deserved a chance. Because sometimes being human meant doing the impossible thing simply because you could not live with yourself if you did not try. The Meridian dropped out of faster-than-light travel above a dead world. Below, the research station's shields flickered like a dying star. Around it, ancient machines moved with deadly grace, waiting for their prey to fail. Yoon looked at her. Last chance to back out. Bora stood and walked to the airlock. No. Take me down. And the Meridian descended toward the ruins, carrying an unarmed human woman into the heart of an ancient killing field. The galaxy watched and wondered if this was courage or madness. Bora wondered if there was any difference. The Meridian landed 2 kilometers from the research station. Yoon refused to get any closer. The ancient defense machines had already targeted the ship 3 times. Only his careful piloting and the ship's lack of visible weapons had kept them from firing. He gripped the controls tightly as Bora prepared to leave. His voice was quiet when he spoke. I will wait here. If things go wrong, I want to be able to reach you quickly. Bora knew he could not reach her quickly enough if the machines decided to kill her. But she appreciated the thought. She checked her translation device one final time, then stepped into the airlock. The world outside was dead. The sky was gray. The ground was dust. Nothing grew here. Nothing lived. This planet had been dead for millions of years, and the only things that moved were the machines that guarded its secrets. Bora walked slowly toward the ruins. Her footsteps left prints in the ancient dust. Above her, she could see the research station's shields flickering. The people inside were running out of time. So was she. She had walked perhaps 500 meters when the first machine appeared. It rose from the dust like a ghost, its body sleek and deadly. Weapons ports opened along its sides, targeting systems locking onto her. Bora stopped walking. She raised her hands slowly, showing that they were empty. The machine hovered in front of her, scanning. Bora could feel the sensors moving over her body, looking for weapons, looking for threats, finding nothing but a fragile human in simple clothes. After what felt like hours but was probably only seconds, the machine moved aside. The weapons ports closed. Bora let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. The first test was passed. The machine recognized that she was unarmed. She continued walking. More machines appeared, forming an escort around her. They did not threaten her, but they did not let her veer from the path either. They were guiding her, taking her somewhere specific. The ruins rose before her. They were beautiful despite their age. Towers of metal and stone that seemed to grow from the ground like trees. Archways carved with symbols that hurt to look at. The architects had built something magnificent here, and even after millions of years, its grandeur remained. The machines led her to an entrance. A doorway 10 meters high, framed by columns covered in writing. Bora's translation device hummed as it tried to process the ancient language. Slowly, words appeared in her vision. Here lies our memory. Here rests our shame. Here sleeps our hope. Approach with respect and all may learn. Approach with force and all must die. Bora understood. This was not just a ruin. It was a tomb, a library, a warning. The architects had destroyed themselves somehow, and they had left this place so others might learn from their mistakes. She stepped through the doorway. The inside was vast. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above. The walls were lined with crystalline structures that glowed faintly. Data storage, Bora realized. Millions of years of information preserved in technology that still functioned. In the center of the chamber was a platform with a terminal. This was what the researchers had been trying to reach. This was what the machines were protecting. Bora approached slowly. The machines followed but kept their distance. She placed her hand on the terminal. It warmed under her touch. Lights flickered across its surface. Her translation device began working frantically as information poured into it. Not commands, not data requests. A question. Who are you? Why have you come? Bora's hands trembled. The system was conscious, or at least intelligent enough to question her. She spoke clearly, knowing the terminal would process her words. I am Han Bora. I am human. I come from a world called Earth. Others came here without understanding what this place was. They meant no disrespect. They simply did not know. I have come to apologize and to ask for mercy. Another pause. Then more text appeared. You carry no weapons. You bring no force. Why? Bora answered truthfully. Because I understand what this place is. This is a memorial, a place of learning. You cannot learn through violence. You cannot honor the dead by threatening the living. I come in peace because that is the only way to approach such a place. The terminal pulsed with light. Data streams flowed across its surface. Then a single message appeared, clear and simple. You understand, few have. Many species have come here. All brought weapons. All demanded access. None asked. None apologized. You are the first. Bora felt tears in her eyes, not from sadness but from the weight of understanding. The architects had not been evil. They had created this defense system to test whether those who came after could learn the lesson they had learned too late. That wisdom comes from respect, not force. That knowledge is earned through humility, not taken through power. Bora spoke again. The others, the researchers trapped in the station, they did not know. But now they do. Will you let them live? Will you let them learn? The terminal was silent for a long moment. Then came the response. If they leave peacefully, if they promise to return only with respect, if they swear to honor our memory and share our story with care, then yes, they may live. Bora's legs nearly gave out with relief. They will, I promise they will. The terminal continued. And you may access our archives. Not all, but some. Enough to understand. Enough to teach others. Will you accept this responsibility? Bora understood what was being offered. The architects were trusting her with their legacy, with the story of their civilization. I swear I will honor your memory. I will share your story with care. I will make sure others learn from what you have left behind. The terminal glowed brighter. Data began flowing into her device. The story it told was tragic. The architects had been peaceful once, built on cooperation and art. But when they encountered hostile species, they built weapons to defend themselves. Those weapons worked too well. They won their wars but changed in the process. They became aggressive, territorial, cruel. In the end, they destroyed themselves. Not through external enemies, but through internal conflict. They became so good at war that they turned on each other. The civilization that valued beauty died in fire. The last survivors built this memorial as a warning. Violence is a tool, but tools can become masters. When the transfer finished, the terminal spoke one final time. Tell them, tell all of them. We learned too late. Perhaps others will learn in time, I will tell them, Bora promised. The machines around her powered down. The shields around the research station stabilized. Her communication device crackled to life with a researcher's shaking voice asking what had happened. I talked to them, Bora said simply. And they listened. You are safe now, but you must treat this place with the respect it deserves. This is a memorial, not a resource. When she reached the meridian, Yoon was waiting at the airlock. His face showed relief and wonder. You did it. I do not know how, but you did it. I just listened, Bora said. Sometimes that is all you need to do. As they lifted off, Bora looked back at the ruins. A monument to a species that had almost achieved greatness and lost it through violence. She thought about humanity and Earth's violent history. Humanity had not learned everything yet, but maybe they were learning fast enough. Maybe that was enough to give the galaxy hope. When Bora returned to the summit station, everything had changed. The representatives who had once looked at her with contempt or amusement now looked at her with something different. Respect, fear, curiosity. She had done what their military could not. She had saved 60 lives without firing a single shot. The central chamber was packed. All 17 species had gathered, along with observers and analysts. Bora stood in the center again, but this time there was a chair. A small gesture, but meaningful. She was no longer just a specimen to be examined. She was someone who had earned consideration. General Vex spoke first. His antennae moved in patterns Bora had learned meant discomfort. Your approach was unorthodox. My tactical systems had calculated a 97% failure rate. Yet you succeeded. I must acknowledge that my analysis was incomplete. It was not quite an apology, but from a species built on perfect logic and order, it was close. Bora nodded respectfully. You could not have predicted my approach because your species has never needed it. You evolved with perfect cooperation. You never had to learn deception or lateral thinking born from desperation. That does not make you inferior. It makes you different. Talrin moved forward, his 6 limbs gesturing with enthusiasm. The human has demonstrated value. She solved a problem none of us could solve. She accessed information we could not access. She represents a perspective the Coalition lacks. I move that Earth be granted observer status immediately. Several representatives voiced agreement. But then Krethus stepped forward, his light patterns flickering with barely controlled anger. One success does not erase centuries of violence. One clever solution does not prove trustworthiness. The human got lucky. She stumbled onto a solution through random chance, not wisdom. Bora felt anger rise in her chest but pushed it down. She had learned in that ancient tomb that anger solved nothing. Instead, she spoke calmly. High Luminary Krethus, may I ask what would have convinced you? What would prove humanity's worth in your eyes? Krethus's light patterns flashed. Nothing, there is nothing humanity could do. You are fundamentally flawed. Your species is built on violence. You cannot change your nature any more than I can change mine. You will always be dangerous. You will always be a threat. The chamber fell silent. Krethus had said what many of them were thinking, but were too polite to voice. Bora looked at him for a long moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was soft but clear. You are right. Humanity is dangerous. We are capable of terrible violence. Our history is soaked in blood. We have killed each other over resources, over beliefs, over pride. We have poisoned our world. We have made weapons that could destroy everything we built. You are absolutely correct about all of that. Krethus's light patterns pulsed with satisfaction, but Bora continued. But here is what you do not understand. We know we are dangerous. We live with that knowledge every day. We teach our children about the wars we fought and the mistakes we made. We study our failures so we do not repeat them. We are dangerous, yes, but we are also aware of our danger. And that awareness makes us careful. She gestured to the architect's data storage device she had brought back. The architects were not dangerous until they were. They were peaceful until they learned violence. And when they learned it, they had no framework for controlling it. They had no cultural memory of what violence costs. They learned too fast and destroyed themselves. Humanity has lived with violence for thousands of years. We have learned slowly and painfully how to control it, how to channel it, how to choose when to use it and when to set it aside. We are not perfect. We still fail sometimes, but we are getting better, and we know the cost of failure. A new voice spoke. It was the Thessian, the floating crystal entity. Your words have merit, but words are easy. How do we know humanity will not revert to violence when stressed? The architect's warning suggests that peaceful species can become violent. Might violent species become more violent? Bora nodded. That is a fair question.
And I cannot give you guarantees.
No one can. But consider this. I am here unarmed, surrounded by species who could destroy me with a thought. Every moment I have been here, I have been vulnerable. Yet I have not responded with violence or threats. I have responded with patience and words. That is because you are weak, Crethus interjected. You have no choice but patience. Bora smiled. Perhaps. Or perhaps I chose patience because I believed it would work better than force. You cannot know which, and that uncertainty, High Luminary, is precisely why you should give humanity a chance. Because you cannot predict us. Because we might surprise you. Because different perspectives create stronger solutions. Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded. Different from before. More urgent. The holographic display activated automatically, showing star charts. Red markers appeared at the edge of known space, moving inward. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. What is that? Talrin asked, his voice tight with fear. General Vex was already analyzing the data. Unknown fleet, massive, moving toward Coalition space at high speed. Configuration matches the technology signatures from the architect's world. They are not responding to communication attempts. Bora's blood ran cold. The architects. Some of them had survived. They had left their dying world millions of years ago, and now they were coming back. Coming back to find their world occupied by others. Coming back changed by millions of years of isolation and conflict. The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives shouted over each other. Some called for immediate military mobilization. Others suggested diplomatic envoys. A few proposed retreat from the region entirely. Bora watched Crethus, and for the first time she saw fear in his light patterns. General Vex called for order. His voice was steady, but Bora could hear the stress underneath. Based on preliminary analysis, this fleet is technologically superior to Coalition forces. Their weapons systems are advanced beyond our current capabilities. They outnumber us significantly, and they are heading directly for the Architect's homeworld, which lies within Coalition space. How long until they arrive? The Thessian asked. 3 weeks. Perhaps 4. General Vex's calm was cracking. We are not prepared for this. The Coalition has not faced a genuine military threat in recorded history. Our forces are designed for peacekeeping and defense against pirates. Not war, Bora stepped forward. She knew she was overstepping. She knew she had no authority, but she also knew that fear made people stupid, and the Coalition was about to make terrible decisions born from panic. May I speak? Crethus turned on her, his light patterns blazing red. You have no place in this discussion. This is a Coalition matter. Your opinion is neither wanted nor valued. Talrin moved to Bora's side. The human just saved 60 researchers. She accessed the Architect's archives. She might have insights we need. We should listen. For once, General Vex agreed. Speak quickly, human. What do you propose? Bora took a deep breath. You need help. You need species who understand conflict, who have experience with warfare, who can think strategically about violence. You need humanity. The chamber exploded with argument. Crethus's light patterns were nearly blinding in their intensity. Never! We will not allow humans to militarize Coalition space. This is exactly what we feared. You see crisis and immediately think of weapons and war. Bora raised her voice. Not weapons. Strategy. Not soldiers. Advisors. You have military forces. You have weapons. What you lack is experience in using them. Humanity can teach you. Not how to fight dirty, but how to fight smart. How to use what you have effectively. How to survive when outmatched. The argument continued, but Bora could see calculation in some of their eyes. Desperation made strange partnerships. The Coalition was facing extinction, and they knew it. Sometimes survival required accepting help from unexpected sources. General Vex finally raised a limb for silence. I do not like this, but the human is correct that we lack experience. I propose we put it to a vote. Should Earth be granted provisional membership and allowed to provide military consultation? The vote was close. Krathus voted against, his light patterns filled with fury and fear, but enough representatives saw no alternative. The motion passed by a single vote. Bora felt no triumph. Only the weight of responsibility. Humanity had just been granted membership in the Galactic Coalition, but not through respect or friendship. Through desperate necessity. They were not joining as equals. They were joining as the dangerous species the Coalition was afraid to face alone. And that, Bora knew, was both humanity's greatest opportunity and its most dangerous test. The galaxy had regretted sending for an unarmed ambassador. Now they would see if they regretted accepting what that ambassador represented. Earth responded to the emergency call within hours. Ships began arriving at the Coalition's military staging ground, a massive station near the border. But these were not warships. They were transports carrying advisors, strategists, and analysts. Humanity was sending its knowledge, not its weapons. Bora watched from the summit station as the first human ships docked. She had sent word to Secretary General Kang Doyan, explaining the situation. Kang's response had been immediate and decisive. We will help, but we will do it our way. Knowledge, not force. Captain Yoon was among the first to arrive at the staging ground. He had transitioned from pilot to military liaison, coordinating between human advisors and Coalition forces. The transition was difficult. Coalition species operated on principles of honor and direct engagement. Human tactics seemed dishonest to them, deceptive, wrong. On the third day, Bora traveled to the staging ground to observe the preparations. She found Yoon in a conference room, surrounded by frustrated Coalition officers. General Vex stood at the center, his antennae quivering with agitation. You suggest we retreat before engaging the enemy? General Vex demanded. You advise that we hide our true strength? That we strike from ambush rather than meet them honorably? These tactics are cowardly. Yoon's voice was patient but firm. These tactics are survival. You are outgunned. You are outnumbered. Direct engagement will result in your complete destruction. You must use every advantage you have. That means choosing when and where to fight. That means making the enemy come to you. That means surviving long enough to find a weakness. A Jarvik officer spoke up, his fur bristling. But if we hide, if we use deception, how are we different from the enemy? Bora stepped forward. You are different because you know why you fight. You fight to protect, not to conquer. You fight to survive, not to dominate. The methods might seem similar, but the purpose defines the morality. The architects learned that too late. They became what they fought because they forgot why they were fighting. The room fell silent. General Vex studied Bora with compound eyes that saw more than visible light. You speak with wisdom beyond your years, human. But how do we trust that we will not lose ourselves in the process? How do we ensure we remain who we are? By remembering, Bora said. By never forgetting that these tactics are temporary. That survival is the goal, not victory. That when the crisis ends, you must return to who you were. That is what humanity learned. We have fought wars, yes, but we always remembered peace. We always knew that war was the aberration, not the natural state. Over the next 2 weeks, the transformation was remarkable. Coalition forces learned to think like humans. They learned to use asteroid fields for cover, to create false sensor readings, to strike at supply lines rather than main forces, to make the enemy pay for every meter of space. But they also learned something else. They learned that fighting this way required constant moral vigilance. It was easy to slip from strategic deception to cruelty, from tactical ambush to cowardice. The human advisors did not just teach tactics. They taught restraint. They taught the importance of rules even in chaos. The returning architect's fleet arrived sooner than expected. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of their ancient homeworld system, and their first message was not diplomatic. It was a demand. Leave our space. Return our world. Depart immediately or be destroyed. General Vex wanted to respond with force. But Yoon convinced him to wait. Let them commit first. Learn their patterns. Understand their tactics. Do not give them an easy target. The Architect's fleet began moving toward their homeworld. Coalition forces retreated, using the tactics they had learned. They left sensor buoys that looked like military installations. They created debris fields that could hide ships. They made it impossible for the architects to know where the real defenses were. The first engagement was small. 3 architect ships pursued what they thought was a fleeing coalition patrol. Instead, they flew into a carefully prepared ambush. The coalition ships were hidden in a debris field, their power signatures masked. They struck hard and fast, crippling 2 of the 3 architect ships before retreating. It was not a decisive victory. It was barely a skirmish, but it was proof that coalition forces could fight effectively, that they could survive, that they were not helpless prey. The architects responded with fury. They launched a massive assault on what they believed was Coalition's main defense station, but it was another trap. The station was real, but it had been evacuated. When the architects committed their forces, Coalition ships struck from 3 different directions, targeting their supply vessels. The strategy was working. The architects were powerful, but they were fighting the way they had always fought. With overwhelming force and direct assault, they had not adapted. They had not learned. They were making the same mistakes they had made millions of years ago. But Bora knew that military success was not enough. War could be survived, but it could not be won through violence alone. At some point, someone had to talk. Someone had to find a way to end the conflict that did not require complete destruction. She studied the architects' communications. Their language had changed over millions of years, but the core structure remained. She could understand them. And what she understood broke her heart. They were not evil. They were desperate. They had been wandering for so long. They wanted to come home. She proposed a plan to the coalition leadership. Let me talk to them. Let me try to negotiate. We can fight, yes. We can make them hurt. But what if we can do more than that? What if we can actually solve this? Krathus opposed the plan immediately. They will kill you. They will take any negotiation as weakness. You will accomplish nothing except dying and proving that diplomacy fails. But Talrin supported her. She saved the researchers. She accessed the archives. If anyone can reach them, it is her. And if she cannot, we have lost nothing we would not lose anyway. The vote was even closer this time, but it passed. Bora was given permission to broadcast a message to the architect's fleet. She prepared carefully, choosing words that would resonate with a species that had lost everything and wanted only to return home. She sat in a communications room alone except for the recording equipment. She thought about the architect's memorial, about the warning they had left, about the species they had been and the species they had become. Then she began to speak. I am Han Bora, I am human. I have visited your homeworld. I have stood in your memorial. I have heard your warning. I know what you were. I know what you became. I know why you left. And I know why you have returned. You seek to reclaim what you lost. But the world you left is gone. It has been dead for millions of years. The species you were is gone. What remains is memory, warning, hope. Your ancestors wanted others to learn from their mistakes. They wanted their suffering to mean something. You have traveled for so long. You have survived when you should have died. But survival is not enough. Your ancestors knew that. They left behind more than ruins. They left behind a choice. Will you honor their memory by continuing the cycle of violence, or will you honor it by choosing differently? The Coalition occupies space near your homeworld, yes, but they do not own it. They study it. They preserve it. They protect it. They do what your ancestors hoped someone would do. They learn from your history. They remember your civilization. They keep your memory alive. You can destroy them. You probably will. Your technology is superior. Your forces are vast. But what will you gain? A dead world. A meaningless victory. Revenge against people who did you no harm. Is that what your ancestors would want? Is that worth the lives you will lose and the lives you will take? Or you could choose peace. You could join the coalition. Share your knowledge. Learn from others. Build something new instead of trying to reclaim something dead. Your ancestors left a warning. Do not let their sacrifice be meaningless. Choose differently than they did. The message was sent. Bora sat back and waited. The response would take hours. The architect's fleet was far away and communication was slow. She did not know if they would listen. She did not know if her words would matter, but she had tried. She had offered them a choice. Sometimes that was all you could do. Give people a choice and hope they chose wisely. Yoon found her in the communications room, staring at the screen that showed nothing but static and waiting. He sat beside her without speaking. They had been through too much together to need words. Do you think they will listen? He finally asked. I do not know, Bora admitted, but I know that their ancestors hoped someone would reach them, would remind them of what they had lost. Maybe that someone is me. Maybe it is not. But I had to try. Hours passed. The coalition forces prepared for battle, expecting the worst. General Vex positioned his ships according to human strategic principles. If the architects attacked, they would face the most sophisticated defense the coalition had ever mounted. Then finally, a response came. Not an attack, a message, short, simple, 2 words that changed everything. We listen. The negotiations took 3 weeks. They were not easy. The architects who had returned were not the species who had built the memorial. They had changed over millions of years of isolation and conflict. They had become harder, colder, more suspicious. But they had also become tired. Bora met with their representatives in neutral space aboard a coalition diplomatic vessel. The architects appeared through holographic projection. They looked like their ancient machines, sleek and sharp, but with organic elements woven through metal bodies. They had merged with their technology over the eons, becoming something new. The lead representative called herself Architect Prime. She spoke in the ancient language that Bora had learned from the memorial. We have listened to your message. We have debated among ourselves. We are divided. Some wish to continue the assault. Others wish to hear more. I am among those who wish to hear. Bora bowed respectfully. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving peace a chance. I know it is not easy. I know you have traveled so far and sacrificed so much. The desire to reclaim what you lost must be overwhelming. Architect Prime's form shifted, colors flowing across her surface in patterns that expressed complex emotion. It is not just desire, it is need. We have been wandering for so long. We have no home. We have only the memory of home, and now we find our world occupied by others. You ask us to accept this, to let go. How can we? Bora thought carefully before responding. I do not ask you to let go. I ask you to reconsider what home means. Your homeworld is dead, but your culture, your knowledge, your history, all of that still exists. In the memorial, in the archives, in the lessons you can teach others. Perhaps home is not a place. Perhaps it is being remembered, being valued, having your existence matter. Another architect appeared in the hologram. Architect Secondary, his form darker and more aggressive. Pretty words. But words do not give us territory. Words do not give us resources. Words do not undo millions of years of wandering. You are right, Bora agreed. Words alone are not enough, so let me offer you more than words. The coalition has resources, territory, knowledge. Join the coalition as full members, not as conquered people, not as refugees, as equals. Your technology is advanced. Your experience is vast. You have value beyond what you have lost. Architect Secondary made a sound like metal scraping. Why would we want to join those who occupy our home? Because the alternative is war that no one can win, Bora said bluntly. Yes, you might destroy coalition forces. You might reclaim your system. But at what cost? How many of your people will die? How much of your culture will be lost? You have survived for millions of years. Will you throw that away for a dead planet? Architect Prime raised a limb for silence. The human speaks truth, though it is harsh truth. We have the strength to win a war. But strength is not wisdom. Our ancestors learned that. They had strength and it destroyed them. Perhaps we should choose differently. A third architect appeared. Architect Tertiary, smaller than the others but with intricate patterns across her surface. I have examined the memorial data the human accessed. I have reviewed what our ancestors left behind. They did not leave us a demand for vengeance. They left us a warning, a plea. Learn from our mistakes. Do not repeat our errors. Architect Secondary turned on Tertiary. You would dishonor our suffering? You would accept charity from those who took what was ours? I would honor our survival, Tertiary replied. We have wandered for so long. We are tired. We are diminished. We can continue fighting until we are extinct. Or we can choose to live, to rebuild, to become something new. Which choice honors our ancestors? Which choice honors our future? The debate continued for days. Bora listened more than she spoke. She had made her case. Now the architects had to decide for themselves. She could not force them to choose peace. She could only show them that peace was possible. The coalition waited tensely. Some representatives, particularly Krethis, argued for preemptive strikes while the architects were divided. But Tal Rin and others convinced them to wait, to give negotiation a chance, to trust that Bora knew what she was doing. On the 21st day, Architect Prime contacted Bora directly. "We have reached a decision. Not all of us agree. Some of our fleet will depart. They cannot accept what we have become. They cannot let go of what was. But others will stay. We will accept coalition membership. We will share our knowledge. We will help protect these species who protected our memory." Bora felt tears running down her face. "Thank you. Thank you for choosing life. Thank you for giving peace a chance." Architect Prime's colors softened. "Do not thank us yet. This will not be easy. There is anger. There is pain. There are wounds that will take generations to heal. But you have given us hope that healing is possible. That is more than we had before." The formal ceremony was held 1 week later. Nearly half of the architect fleet departed, unable to accept the peace. But the others remained. They signed the coalition accords. They pledged to share knowledge and technology. They accepted territory far from their ancient homeworld but rich in resources. At the ceremony, Bora stood between Architect Prime and High Luminary Krethus. The Velen had finally accepted reality. His light pattern showed resignation mixed with something that might have been respect. "You were right," Krethus said quietly. "I did not want to admit it. I fought against it. But you were right. Humanity has value. Not because you are strong, not because you are advanced, but because you understand struggle, you understand survival, you understand the cost of conflict." Bora looked at him. "Does this mean you no longer think humanity is dangerous?" Krethus's light patterns flickered in what might have been amusement. "No. You are absolutely dangerous. But I have learned that danger is not the same as evil. You are dangerous in the way a fire is dangerous. Capable of destruction, yes, but also capable of warmth, of light, of transforming what you touch." "I will take that as a compliment," Bora said. "It is meant as one," Krethus replied. "And as an apology. I underestimated your species. I will not make that mistake again." After the ceremony, Bora prepared to return to Earth. She had been away for months. She had been through more than she ever imagined possible. She was tired. She wanted to go home. But before she could leave, Tal Rin found her. He carried a small crystal device. "This is for you, a gift from the Coalition, a translation matrix that will allow you to communicate with any Coalition species instantly. You have earned the right to speak in our chambers whenever you wish." Bora accepted the device. "Thank you, but I am not a politician. I am not a diplomat. I am just someone who tried to help." Tal Rin's 6 limbs gestured warmly. "That is exactly why we need you. Politicians and diplomats have agendas. You have only honesty. You speak truth even when it is uncomfortable. That is rare. That is valuable. Do not dismiss your gift." Captain Yoon was waiting aboard the Meridian. He smiled when he saw her. "Ready to go home?" "More than ready," Bora said. She strapped into her seat as Yoon began the departure sequence. As they pulled away from the station, she looked back at the assembled fleet. Coalition ships, architect vessels, human transports, all working together, all learning from each other. It was not perfect. It would never be perfect. There would be conflicts, misunderstandings, mistakes, but there was also hope. The hope that different species could learn from each other. That strength came in many forms. That survival required both wisdom and courage. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Yoon asked. "No," Bora said honestly. "I thought they would reject us. I thought humanity would remain alone. I never imagined we would become partners. Equals. We are not equals yet," Yoon said. "But we are on the path, and that is more than we had before." The Meridian jumped to faster-than-light travel. Space twisted around them in impossible colors. Bora closed her eyes and thought about everything that had happened. She had been sent as an unarmed ambassador. A test, a curiosity. A way for the Coalition to prove humanity was not worthy. Instead, she had proven something different. That being unarmed did not mean being weak. That vulnerability could be strength. That sometimes the most powerful weapon was understanding, patience, the willingness to listen before speaking, to learn before teaching. Humanity had been dangerous, would always be dangerous, but they were also something else. Survivors, adapters, bridge builders between different worlds and different ways of thinking. That was their value, Not that they were perfect, but that they understood imperfection. Not that they had never failed, but that they had learned from failure. When they arrived at Earth, Secretary General Kang Doyen was waiting at the spaceport. She embraced Bora warmly. "Welcome home, Ambassador. You have done what seemed impossible. You have given humanity a place in the galaxy." "I did not do it alone," Bora said. "Captain Yoon helped. The coalition members who supported us helped. Even the ones who opposed us helped by forcing me to think harder about my arguments. Everyone played a part." Kang smiled. "That is why I chose you. You understand that success is never individual, that we rise or fall together. That insight, that wisdom is what humanity needs as we step into the galaxy." "What happens now?" Bora asked. "Now we work," Kang said. "We help the coalition adapt to their new reality. We learn from the species who have been exploring the galaxy longer than us. We share what we know,